Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, October 6th of 2021, and welcome to Ask a Medium. It's so nice to see Human Avatar here in Urbanaut, Purple Roads. Richard Carlson, how you guys doing? Stephen, Fireflower, you're a new one. And of course, we have Rudy Lago, who's got a great lineup tonight. Rudy, why don't you tell us about it?
Yes, and it's Rudy's Psychic Meetup tonight. I think we were just talking about Ask a Medium before we went live. So, um, but yeah, Sam, we're going to
Oh,
talk
did I
about.
say Ask a Medium?
You said Ask a Medium, because I just said it to you before we started.
Oh, yes,
No
Rudy's
worries.
Psychic Meetup. And of course, we have Rudy here for Rudy's Psychic Meetup. I know it goes out on the podcast. So
Yeah,
people are like, what? Wait a minute.
I got the wrong show. So tonight we're going to talk about some old school woo, namely Nostradamus, and if we get to it, maybe the Book of Revelations. These are some things that are always quoted in terms of things that are supposed to happen in the future. So it'll be fun to get Sam's take on it and see if these people really had the gifts or just the gifts of BS. So, Sam, before we do that, do you want to talk about the new tier you're doing? Because I know there's been a lot of questions on Discord about that, and it sounds exciting.
Yeah, well, as you guys probably started to feel like about a week or two ago with us separating the Patreon with to have a separate like psychic nerds setup. And it's because I feel like this is it, guys. This is what you've all been waiting for. It's here now. It's coming. The next 12 months is just going to be amazing. My work is going to become, I feel like it's going to become well known, but I still want to focus more on the group. I thought I was going to be helping people out in the public more right now, but the people on the other side have really been drawing me in and saying, listen, it's the group that we're bringing here. You work with them and then good things will, emanate from that. So I sharpened my pencil and I said, okay, I've got about 350, 370 more seats available in the Sam Jam Discord. Like I've just been going careful because I wanted to make sure we all got to know one another. We built a really solid foundation. This wasn't about, getting as many people in as possible.
Right.
It was all about, quality, not quantity, and then building sort of stair stepping at a time and it was so cute. You could see it when new people would come in, like we do a flashback Friday that just would blow people's mind. And then people would pile in.
Yeah.
And then you'd see like the other Sam Jammers kind of correcting people and kind of, no, you put that in the self promo room and, you just kind of, getting everybody settled down. Right. And it's pretty awesome to watch. But I felt more pressure to move quicker because things are going to be happening for all of us. It's so exciting. I'm very excited. You can probably tell. But I made a decision that I was going to close myself for any public readings in November, probably December too. And what I'm going to do is I usually like about 12 hours is what I would have. Yeah. And I'm going to put that into an advanced plus because so many people in advance, there is a separate room that you can put on the Discord. You can put questions, even personal ones or whatever. Yeah. And then I just answer them whenever I can. But a lot of people who are in the advanced have had some pretty serious stuff coming up and pretty important stuff coming up. It has to do with life changes, cryptos. And I was like, you know what? I can see a lot more of that happening. And what people said over and over again is I joined the channel and the premium tier, there's never any seats available. Right. And it's because there's only 71 seats, right? And that extra one seat was because someone's credit card kicked them out and they had been in since the very beginning.
Nobody's giving those up that easily, right?
Yeah, I know. And it was like, we literally had to open it and then they ran through and then we closed it. Because we were like in communication on email. Okay, are you ready? Right? Because if you open it, you could have like 10 people like
right.
You know what I mean? Or
if they're
on
there at the right time.
That one seat that you put there, right? So anyways, we're going to do an advanced plus, but what I'm going to do is I'm first going to advise people who are already advanced because listen, there's people in advanced, they don't ever attend the live streams and they don't ever ask me a personal question. So I'm going to give people an opportunity to move up to another tier called Advanced Plus. We'll have it for $75. And I figured out that I could get rid of the public readings and put that time into working with Advanced Plus, because then those individuals who either one question a month, we will put that in, right? Okay, one question a month, or you can kind of save it up if
Okay.
you have an issue. Because I find what happens, like it's the same with the premium room, where I mean, some people I just hang out and blab with,
Yeah.
right? Because that's the premium tier. That's the way it is. It's the inner circle. But other people, they don't say anything, and then all of a sudden they have like an issue going on, right? Like
Yeah.
something's happening in their life, like it's a big thing, and we might go back and forth with each other for like a week or two,
Okay. So
while they
advanced
get
will
through
get
it.
first dibs then on upgrading if they want to. Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
us that don't always ask questions or don't need the help,
Yeah.
and we respect your time. And I think that's one of the neat parts about this
Yeah.
group is people are really respectful of your time.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it. I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what. I will open up another tier. I will actually take out the hourly that I'm doing with any public readings, because there are people who are, like I said, are not Sam Jammers, and they just book me and I accept it. I mean, geez, they're throwing $600 at me.
Yeah.
Why say no, right? And it always ends up being like really, really great practice for me, because again, anyone who's paying a significant amount of money, they got stuff going on. So
Yeah.
I got my work cut out for me. I enjoy it, because if I can take like this ball of yarn that's all garbled up and then give it back to them all sorted out, I just
Yeah.
feel so happy that I can do that. But anyways, you guys are the priority. That's what it's coming down to. Instead of just having all these rooms in the basic, because I was really just going to release them all in the basic room. The
Yeah.
basic plus, I was just going to keep adding them. And I was like, okay, I will reallocate time. And then what I'll do, I found Ask a Medium was always getting up to the 50 questions.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people who don't use it. And I was like, okay, well, I have to reduce kind of the crowd in Ask a Medium, unfortunately. But I am going to keep SamNet in the live stream for the advanced. And then the advanced plus will be the Ask a Medium. Because a lot of people, there's only twice a month. Half the time, I mean, they're in bed when it's happening, so they
Yeah.
can't even attend live. And they might be, you know what, I'm just good with watching the replay, because we
Yeah.
will still open that for the replay for people. So they'll still
Okay.
have the quality of the information. It's just that I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh man, it's like 50 questions. And now
It
I'm
gets to
going
be a
like it's
lot. Yeah.
over 2 hours. And I'm like, all right. So, anyways, that's what it's coming down to. But I'm so excited about it, because I'm getting so much information. And I'm going to share with you guys another piece of information I got tonight. Because this kind of stuff is cool. A couple of years ago, you guys know my previous booking agent, Trisha, and I've done videos with her and stuff. A lot of OG are in the group. Those of you who aren't original gang, you can tell them who Trisha is. Anyways, I told Trisha a few years ago, I was like, I feel like, because when she was talking to me, she was like, I love working with you so much that, later on, if you have an opening for someone like full-time, or if you need a full-time assistant, what have you, give me a call. I would love to, I'm sure John will have, her husband actually has since passed away just recently. But I told her, I said, the first time I meet you is on the tarmac, and we're hugging, but I feel like it's the first time I meet you, and it's a private jet. So I was like, oh, things must be going good. And remember, this is like the market's in the toilet.
Right.
Everybody's like, is it going to see 300 billion? Right? Remember the old days, right? And I told her, I was like, I feel like your husband has passed away now, because he was a lot older than her. He had a lot of health problems and stuff, but she was tied to him. She needed to stay with him. She could not leave him for hardly a day without anybody to come and look after him. So if she's going on a private jet with me somewhere nice, then her life circumstances are different. And she also has a lot more money too. So, because she's getting a ticket on the private jet, I guess.
Yeah.
So I just thought tonight, I was like, you know what? If I'm not able to drive down and do my tour, I still want to keep the Cabo meetup. I'm going to look into getting a private jet.
Ooh, no
And then I
mask
thought about it.
required.
Yeah. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, from where I live, and then we'd stop in New Jersey, because I already know a couple of people who would hop on that plane in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to think of where the other stop was, but I felt like the last stop was going to be Arizona. And then it just popped into my mind. I was like, oh my God, Trisha is going to come. As soon as she finds out, she is going to come and be a part of the gang. And that's the first time I'm going to meet her, this person that I've known for a couple of years. Anyways, I just wanted to share that with you guys, because, you're my
That's
inner
awesome.
crew. I was like, I'm taking all the Sam Jammers with me when I
That'd be a
leave the
fun
crypto
plane ride.
space. Yeah, I know. I know.
No.
That's why I was like, I'm not even going to look at the size of the plane yet, because I want to see how many people are coming. And of course, the more people, the less
Yeah.
expensive it's going to be.
That'll be awesome, and that's a great idea because I think a lot of us think that getting a few people together, flying private jet would be so much easier than going commercial, especially with all these crazy restrictions going on, and who knows when they end, right?
Yes, exactly, and I need to make plans. I mean, I gotta get together with you guys. Do you guys know how much flight credits I have with how many airlines trying to get to meetups and stuff that
Oh
ended up
yeah, yeah.
canceling? And a lot of people would say, "Well, what kind of medium are you?" And I'd say, "You know what? I'm a human medium,"
Yeah.
because I realize that the people on the other side, they do not direct every single step in my life, and I make some decisions on my own about stuff that I want to do. And, just like if you go and get together with people to have a good time, I mean, you're not always like praying, asking God, oh, is this the right thing for me to do? Right. So, I mean, I make decisions like everyone else. And that's really, if I can get anything across to people, it's like, look, you can be a medium and you're just a regular person.
Yeah, you're not
And
omnipotent. You don't know everything about everything, right?
that's right. Exactly. You're not like deitized and I find that's a lot of the problem
Yeah.
with when you can tell people like crazy stuff. Like Mont Spencer was going through some of the material that we have. And do you know that I blabbed, it was a couple of years ago, about an island that a volcano was going to go explode, right? But it was going to be a
Oh,
place where they were going to be making like the chips, the microchips. And do you know where that is?
oh, is
La
that in Asia?
Palma.
Oh,
La
La
Palma.
Palma.
La Palma is where they were actually, and she looked into it and microchips, and it came up that La Palma was looking into, like, they were going to start to
Okay.
build, because you know how there's a shortage of microchips, and probably
Right.
that area was looking around, oh, what can we do to draw business here, what have you. And so they were in the process of that, and then of course the volcano exploded. So I just thought that was cool. I would share that with you guys because it all comes out in the blab. And you guys, you're the ones with your questions and ideas and our back and forth, even in chat.
Yeah.
You guys are the ones who bring out the blab. So
Yeah.
thanks for that.
And we got some great questions tonight, but at least let's get into Nostradamus. I don't know if we'll get to the other one, but I wanted to cover this because I was thinking we've looked at Edgar Casey, we've looked at some other psychics, and had you get your take on their predictions. But Nostradamus is old school, and I mentioned it to my wife, and she's heard the name Nostradamus, but she didn't really know who he was, and I guess not everybody does if you haven't been following this stuff for a while. So just the background for folks: Nostradamus, his real name was Michel de Nostradam, and he lived from about 1503 to 1566. So known as Nostradamus. Most famously, he published a book called Les Prophéties in 1955, and this was a collection of 942 quatrains, so these four-line prose that predicts future events. So he's an interesting character because this was around the time of the plague, and he studied at the University of Avignon in France. Um, but once the plague started, they closed that down. And he actually worked as an apothecary. He worked helping treating people with the plague. And he actually is kind of a self-proclaimed. He even refers to himself as having the gift of prophecy. And so, Sam, as I read about him, I thought he kind of sounds like he would fit in with the Sam Jammers, right? He's into the
Yeah.
woo, he's into the healing. People always find their way into that one way or the other. So, do you see Nostradamus, Sam, as someone who actually had this gift of second sight? Was he a true psychic or medium?
Yeah. I believe that he was. I
Okay.
believe that a lot of people who even wrote the book of Revelations were, people who, just saw pictures like I see pictures.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, it's easy to detract, or detractors really say that like his stuff is so vague you can't really make any inferences from it. But other people credit him with predicting stuff. And then there's also like God, if you just go on the internet, there's so many fake Nostradamus prophecies that are out there, that like these fake quatrains. So you have to watch out for those. But one of the reasons that he did this was also to kind of evade the religious authorities. Around the time of the Inquisition, is he purposely made them vague because he didn't want to be, have his head cut off for heresy. And the other issue that he has is, you know, he he speaks in like symbology, some mythological allusions, and he he uses like a couple different languages. So even the language at the time, and he probably didn't have the vocabulary even to describe if he was really seeing things into the future. So Sam, is this really what Nostradamus, you think, set out to do, was record what he could, but in a way that it was coded so that he couldn't be branded a heretic?
I think that it was a combination of that and also really not knowing the truth or the true translation of what he was seeing. Because remember, a lot of the stuff that he saw, he didn't really understand it. He was seeing pictures, just like earlier I was talking about. I saw a picture of, you know, somebody that I had never met before, but had been working with online and through the phone and had done
Hmm.
video, some videos with and stuff, but I've never actually met the person. So when you see a vision and you see them there on the tarmac and you see a private jet and you're on the private jet and that person is like, you get the feelings and the knowings, but you don't actually know the whole circumstances, like to come out with, oh, it's because we're on our way to the meetup in
Right.
Cabo together. Like, and we've flown private because, a bunch of Sam Jammers got together and all threw in a few $1,000s each. And, for just to get on the plane together, because really it was a drop in the bucket compared to what we had made
Yeah.
leading up to whatever that flight was, which would be in December. Right. So anyways, it's the same thing with Nostradamus. He did it to hide it, but he also didn't fully understand
Okay.
his translations at the time. Just like I don't really know, just like the La Palma volcanic eruption, and bringing up that it's about the microchips,
Right.
and
Right.
it's not until a few years later when it actually happens. And that's a very specific thing, the
Yeah.
microchips, and
Combining
because there's
those.
been a lot of volcanoes go off. And one of the things I said a few weeks ago, before all of these, there was some crazy earthquakes that have happened as well. And I just spoke about how somebody asked me if La Palma was the indication of the economic meltdown. And I said, I mentioned about a volcano in Italy
Hmm.
going off, like exploding and stuff. I said, but I do feel like these are all attached. So there will be
Yeah.
many like volcanoes and earthquakes. So this is just part of the everything all at once.
Okay.
But I'm seeing more and more how maybe Nostradamus may have felt when he was trying to get his word out to the people. I mean, even look at me today. I have to censor what I'm saying. I mean, I have editors who download my weekly meetup with Muant and a lot of the
Hmm.
stuff that I do, and they edit and they pull out stuff
Yeah.
that I say because, again, we don't have the religious authorities, but we have the no talents
Yeah.
who are monitoring and pulling stuff off because, any speech that they disagree with, they consider hate speech.
Yeah.
And that's just speech they disagree with. But the tables are going to be turning very soon.
We have a lot of parallels. And
Mhm.
Sam, with yours, you've kind of noted before that you tend to be, maybe 2 to 4 years out on your predictions. And Nostradamus, do you think his were more kind of immediate for his time frame, or did it also kind of span centuries? Because in his books, he seems to cover quite a bit of time period in there.
Well, I think that everybody who has abilities like what I do, that they have different assignments.
Okay.
As far as like Nostradamus, he was one for the ages,
Okay.
for him. Like
Yeah.
there were not, when Nostradamus was living, it wasn't like there was like 50 Nostradamuses out there.
Yeah.
Were there mediums? Oh, absolutely, there were mediums. But he had a specific reason for being at the time that he was. And he is a fellow nerd.
Yeah, I thought so. And it's funny. And as a side note, we've talked about some of these powerful families, elite, rich families before. But Catherine de Medici, the wife of King Henry II of France, was one of his great admirers, and he dabbled in astrology. He did some astrology charts for her children. And so it's interesting as you look back, and some of these names that keep coming up are involved in kind of. Whether it's shielding or promoting some of these key players. So I just thought that was a really interesting side note. But what I want to do, Sam, is I have a list of quatrains I want to go through, and I was hoping you would say he was a medium because otherwise that would blow this part of the show. But I want to get your take on a couple of these because there's a couple of them. I'm like, oh my God, this sounds just like today. But first, what I'll do is I'll just read the first, the 4 lines, and then we'll get your take and see what you think he was referring to. Because some of these are pretty obscure. So the first one is from his chapter or century 1, verse 29. When the fish that travels over both land and sea is cast upon the shore by a great wave, its shape foreign, smooth, and frightful. From the sea, the enemies soon reach the walls. What do you get from that?
Well, I mean, the fish under the sea, would that be like a submarine?
It's the fish that travels over both land and sea. Um, so I don't know what that, would that be
Hmm.
an airplane, you think?
Airplane. Yeah. I was
Like
just
a
going to say the
tube?
other thing, like in the chrysalids, that story that it's actually for some junior high students, the chrysalids was on the reading list.
Okay.
And it was actually set in Newfoundland, Canada
Uh-huh.
after the Great Tribulation. So it
Oh,
was written about like nuclear war and stuff.
yeah,
But they didn't know about like airplane because they were totally shut off from the
yeah,
rest of the world because it was just different spots of survivors. But obviously, one place in the world just survived where they still had the high technology, like the airplanes. And she used to describe they would occasionally see these silver fish flying
Oh,
through the
interesting.
sky. So,
Okay.
yeah,
So he's referring to an airplane there. Okay.
yeah.
And then along this in the same chapter, there's a couple other we'll go through. This one I thought was interesting. It says, "Alas, how we will see a great nation sorely troubled, and the holy law in utter ruin. Christianity governed throughout by other laws, when a new source of gold and silver is discovered."
So it's probably more about religion being cast aside and people being more drawn towards, uh, riches.
It made
As
me think of Bitcoin. So when you see sort of the Islamic settlement in
Mhm.
Europe, and then it says Christianity governed throughout by other laws, and it made me think of cryptos. Like, is it this modern times where you have this mass diaspora of other religions kind of moving in the Christian areas, and then a new source of gold and silver? Is that a
Oh,
different
is that what
place?
it said? A new source?
Yeah, a new source of gold and
Gold and
silver.
silver. Yeah, well, then that would make sense. The digital currencies would be the new source. But then you also see that Christianity is not the ruling religion. So it's like using the time. He did the same thing. He used the timestamps, just like,
Okay,
I saw the things that are happening like right now. This
yeah,
was for me the timestamp that, okay, guys, this is it. This is the big, huge wave
okay,
that we've been waiting for. This is one for the ages. And get ready for the craziness. It's coming. But there was a few timestamps, things that have come true to
okay.
airmark that.
This one here is famously quoted as him predicting the Twin Towers at 9/11. And we'll see if you see this one when I read this. It says, the quatrain says, "At 45 degrees, the sky will burn. Fire to approach the great new city. In an instant, a great scattered flame will leap up, when one will want to demand proof of the Normans." So when people quote this, they say the 45 degrees, that's the line of latitude that New York sits on, and it's the new city. I don't know. Do you think that that's what he was referring to in that quatrain, Sam, or do you think it was something else?
Yeah, no, I do think it was because of the 45 degree.
Okay.
So he did name, the location somewhat. And then he said the new city.
Yeah.
So New York.
Okay. These other ones, I'll go through a couple more. I got 4 I want to go through. And these really just jumped out at me as I was looking through these because it sounded so much like today. So the first one is from the 8th century, or the chapter 8, and it says, "The false message about the rigged election to run through the city, stopping the broken pact. Voices bought, chapels stained with blood, the empire contracted to another one." This to me sounded like the election,
Yeah.
China influence, all that stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
Yeah. It is totally true. As soon as you said, another one paid for by another one, it's like, yeah, all of this bedlam and stuff. But still, I mean, it's going to not work out the way that
Yeah.
evil had planned for it to work out. Because that's the way that the people on the other side, they always win in the end.
Yeah.
Always.
So here's another good one. Guess who he's talking about here? I'll tell you who I think, but it says this is verse 40 or quatrain 41 of chapter 8. A fox will be elected without speaking one word, appearing saintly in public, living on barely bread. Afterwards, he will suddenly become a tyrant, putting his foot on the throats of the greatest men. Who does that sound like? Yeah, I'm reading these things and I'm like, oh my God, this sounds exactly like what's happening with, our current president and some of these people being put in jail, whether it's the protesters or the Marine that we've talked about. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But one of the things with these types of prophecies, Sam, is they can also be, because they are so broad, they can be interpreted, I guess, almost on any time that you're in, if you find the right, just a couple of those keywords. But do you think that he had some of these focused on this point in time that we're in right now?
Yeah, because it's probably one of the most interesting points in time ever in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
Like, really, it is the most interesting because I keep being told that this is the time that everyone was waiting for. And that's why so many um, of the, I don't know what you call them, high ranking source people.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones who, we're all part of source, but people are all at different points in their learning.
Uh-huh.
And um, I would say that there's probably a good percentage that are here for the Great Awakening.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been
Well,
waited for. Even the aliens are watching. They're even showing up. They're like, yeah, we want to check this out. We know
yeah,
stuff is going down soon. We want to. It's almost like they're in the bleachers, just
just
watching.
waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, these prophecies, they're also a translation, so it's kind of hard to get it, and they're only 4 lines. But like I said, as I read through these, they just stuck out. I'm like, oh my God, this just it's crazy. I want to. There's some great questions tonight, Sam. I want to jump into that. I think we'll skip the Book of Revelations, but one thing from the Book of Revelations, I want to that stuck out at me as well. It said, "Let the wicked still act wickedly, and the filthy still be filthy. The righteous must still do right, and the holy still be holy." And that, to me, it stuck with me because it's, like we've talked about before. You got to let the evil people do their evil, and it's going to eventually end up undoing them. So I thought that was an interesting passage from Book of Revelations. With that, let's jump into the questions, everyone. All right. First one we have is from Justin, 6 votes. And Justin says, what do you see happening to the Walt Disney Company? What do you see happening to their assets and intellectual property?
Well, I think one of the Walt Disney Company will be one of the ones that survives. It's one of the ones that, when things are going south in the stock market, and if you happen to have cash and you wait until the dust settles, so you wait till it's down, like you might start dollar cost averaging in when it's down like 60%,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then you get yourself some Disney at a cheap price, because that's all that's going to happen is people are just going to end up getting some Disney stock at a cheap price, because it's not one of the ones that's truly affected by all this, because it's more intellectual property.
Okay.
It's more stuff like movies, just like Netflix is not going to be affected the same way as like the microchip companies or the car companies are the ones who are taking it on the chin. Some of them will go out of business.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Next question comes from Deb. Hi, Rudy and Sam. People often use a crystal pendulum as a tool to ask life's deepest questions. In my experience, the crystal pendulum can give very accurate answers. In your opinion, what or who do you think is behind the pendulum to make it swing?
Well, the thing about the pendulum is that when you play games with spiritual beings, like things that can move that, you're pretty much going to get whoever happens to be wandering by. And, why would they lie to you? Because, I mean, they really like you to get into that pendulum
Yeah.
and asking them all kinds of questions, and if you think about it, wouldn't that become addictive? I mean, I try not to ask about every single thing that I'm doing, because I know that it's my responsibility to live my own life. My 11-year-old, he's so funny. He's like, "Mom, mom, use your abilities to find it." And even just the other day when I took him out, we went to the dog park and we took both of the dogs out and we're throwing the ball.
Yeah.
and he couldn't find it. And I said, well, we're not leaving without that ball, because it's not, because I have strong breed dogs. You have to get expensive
Yeah.
balls that they won't destroy. So minimum $40 a ball, right? Is if you can find them. So no way I'm leaving it in the dog park, because he's like, oh, it's not like anyone's going to steal it. I'm like, they take them home all
Yeah.
the time. So anyways, I said, get back out there. And then I was sitting there in the car and I was like, I imagined that it was in a hole. And he came back in the car and he found it. He was like, oh, it was in a hole and it was covered over with leaves. So, because and that came to me, Mom, use your abilities to
Use your
tell me where
power.
it is. Right. And I was thinking about that, but he did find it on his own. But I told him that story. I was like, yeah, I was imagining that it was in a hole
Yeah.
somewhere.
Before I joined this group, I had been playing. I had a pendulum, and I was, I would try to focus and say, okay, I would try and channel to my higher self. And I think the more you do that, you realize that, you know what, you don't need the pendulum. You really know the answer, and that's really can be a distraction. And um, and to your point, another way of something coming at you that maybe you don't want coming at you.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what I was told about it. I mean, it's not like I've never used a pendulum before. I used to use a needle, but
mhm.
that was like a long time ago. And I remember calling out my mom on that one time she was using that. I was like, aren't you Catholic? Isn't this a tool of divination? What are you doing? I was having fun with her, of course,
Heretic.
but it was a tool. It is a tool of divination. That's what they warn you about in the Bible. They're like, don't use tools of divination. And, a lot of people who are religious, they misconstrue that with people like me. I'm not a divination tool. I mean, I
Right.
was born like this. And, isn't it funny if somebody like is a quote unquote Christian, then all of a sudden I would be a prophet,
Yeah.
so, oh, well, what you going to do?
All right. Our next question comes from Bradley J. Hello, Samantha and Rudy. Our 4D reality seems to be built on duality: positive, negative, yin yang, light, dark, good, bad, etc., with a time element. Is there a duality aspect in the spiritual dimension? You've mentioned that time is different. The battle with the fallen angels would seem to indicate that duality does exist. What does the reality of the spiritual plane look like? Thanks.
Well, of course, they limit, Bradley, what I'm able to actually get from it in my human form. And I'll be straight up with you. There's some things that I just don't understand, or that they don't share with me, because they just let me know that my mind is not equipped for that information. Like some things you just can't handle or understand because you're in your human form. But I do agree. Like I've been told that, the light exists outside of the darkness,
Okay.
but you do need to have both, and that's one of the things. When you do what I do, you have to be very careful, because you're literally, imagine just walking like a tightrope,
Yeah.
and one side is darkness and one side is light. And if you fall off and into the darkness, well, there you go. I mean, that's the chance you take. And when you're walking that tightrope, that it's not going to work out well for you, because maybe you made some bad decisions, believed some things you shouldn't have believed.
Yeah.
A few reasons I can think of why mediums, for example, would get off of track, or be like, attracted by, if they get into like gambling,
Hmm.
or like drinking heavily, anything at all like that. Relationships can be a bad thing too. Just so many things that even if somebody is, walking in the light and, manifesting gifts, etc., I find that the darkness will push on them even harder, because they have gotten the attention of the darkness, because you're pushing away the darkness. You're taking up space that used to be dark, and you're turning it into the light, and they don't much care for that. Now, over on the other side, things are much more perfect, and the lines are very clearly drawn. Darkness cannot move into the light. Here on the earth plane they can, but over on the other side they cannot. So when you pass over, and your guardian angel takes your soul and takes you through the in between, right, where all the demons, creatures, and things that live in between are, that's where we all pass through to get through to quote unquote nirvana, heaven, where we came from, where source is. So the guardian angel does that and protects us. And that's what they do, is they take us down here and they take us back, and they're protecting us.
Okay. Interesting. All right, good question. Next one, YS64 says, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. I'm curious about those of us with abilities here in the physical realm. What is the purpose of these abilities? Do these abilities increase with a number of lifetimes, or is it given as just a part of the hand that you're dealt?"
I believe that your abilities are something that you have regardless of, how can I say this? All humans have abilities like what I have, except that not everybody is in the situation like the hand they've been dealt. That's not their place
Okay.
to utilize, like to do what I'm doing kind of thing. But we as humans, we still have our intuition, which is very, very strong. It's only when you leave your human body that all of a sudden you can do everything I can do and 100 times more.
Okay.
Because, when you don't have the limitations of your human body and your mind, I find that, when I mess up on translations, it's usually my mind has gotten
Okay.
involved, and that's how I've messed it up. So this is why feedback is so important, especially as quickly as possible, which is awesome about the Discord room. And thanks again to those people who took the time to direct message me to say, hey, I was reviewing my reading and this came up and this has since happened. And this is, exciting information. And I love the confirmation
Yeah.
as well. But again, it's, something that we all have in a high level of intuition. But sometimes, maybe in another life, when you come here, you'll be tapped on the shoulder and given the ability to, access additional knowings that you would have if you were a light being, but you can still access it in your human form. Again, it's just, it all has to do with, what's your purpose? Why are you here? And who's going to be doing what? And then also the timing as well, because obviously I was not doing what I'm doing now 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't even know I could do this 20 years ago. I knew I could be a medium, but I didn't know I could operate at this level.
Yeah. And like I think about people in my family that maybe have some gifts, and their upbringing, what they've gone through, maybe they're not won't be able to access that because they've shut that off. So like you said, people, if they know how to listen to it, they have it, but not everybody even turns it on. All right, Raymond says, "Hello, Sam and Rudy. Many cultures cover the mirrors if someone dies, so their soul will not be trapped by it. It seems like it might be an old superstition, but people have seen spirits in them many times. Is there any truth to mirrors possessing souls, or is this about as likely as energy being retrained by an old chair or piano, etc.? Thanks."
Mhm. So the mirror it doesn't possess souls. What it does, it's much the same as, when you take a picture. And
Mhm.
so there's things that you can't see when you're there, but they show up in the film. Right. So mirrors are very much the same as that, where you'll see things that are in your realm through the mirror, but you can't see them with the naked eye. But it's easier for that spirit to, or whatever that thing is, to manifest and be seen through a mirror. So I can get why people would throw, blankets over the mirrors when someone's died. It's just an old superstition. There's no way, though, that your soul can get trapped in a mirror. Again, it was just human thinking. There's so many things that it's like, it's, I hear stuff and I'm just like, you know what? When you examine it, you can see that a human mind
Yeah.
has, just like when something bad happens to somebody, like one of my number one pet peeves as a medium is when somebody who's been on the planet for like a very long time is still saying stuff like, why did that happen to that person? They were so good, what kind of karma, blah, blah, blah. It was like,
Uh-huh.
you know what? We live on planet Earth and there's this thing called gravity. And like if an airplane stops working properly, there's a good chance it's going to hit the ground. Right. And that's how
Yeah.
your friend passed away because, they slipped over the end of a cliff and they fell over. And it's not like a cherub, a bunch of angels are going to descend from heaven and then just stop them from. This is not the purpose of planet Earth. The purpose of planet Earth is to be human, live like a human, and learn your lessons. that way. And one of the biggest, I should say that the biggest, I'm trying to think of the word, um, you know, it's the risk of dying. The biggest risk is dying, right? Every single day you're human, and it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what kind of health you're in. You could be in great health, and something could fall out of the sky and land on you. I mean, that old guy had that, I don't know, a hot tub fall on him, and here he'd been moving stuff for years, and this hot tub fell on him. And that's how he died. Like, that was his end, right? Good thing it was quick, right? A nice heavy hot tub, you never know what's going to happen. It's just the way that the world is. So when somebody comes at you with different ideas about stuff, oh, this happened to them because they didn't do this or that, and be like, you know what? That's kind of like, that's human thinking. That's like the mind saying, I have to be able to make sense of this.
Yeah, I've never messed with mirrors myself because I always thought, well, you don't know what you're going to see, but also, a tool of divination too. What if you see something that just scares the crap out of you? That's not going to be good for your vibration.
No, absolutely not. I stay away from all of that stuff. Steve is talking about some black liquid that he used to look into, and it's like, you know what? If he does that, it was probably to get himself to clear his mind and get himself into the trance state. Like when I'm down in the spa, there's just a small swimming pool there. And sometimes, like, because, there's only 122 apartments in the building. So a lot of times you'll go down there, like nobody will be there, or any of the people who are in the spa will be like in the steam room or the sauna. And so, I mean, I was in the swimming pool pretty much tonight, 100% of the time alone. And I was able to sort of get into a trance almost, just swimming through the water. There's, that sort of gentle music, spa music playing in the background. The lights are turned down. And I think that's what Nostradamus used to do, Steve, is just try to get him sort of into a trance state where he would just clear his mind and be open to the information from the other side.
That's the people used to use crystal balls as well. Same idea. Sean says, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. I've often wondered if on the other side you can recreate things you've experienced or create something you wanted to do on Earth but didn't quite get to do it. Can you feel, taste, smell just by imagining, like seeing your favorite band or watching your team win or hold your baby or imagining your first date? That would be so fantastic if you could. Thanks, you two. Super twosome. Love and light, Sean."
Yes, you absolutely can. One of the things I said I would be doing is that I would be doing a double when I do my figure skating, because I only ever got to a single sow cow. And I was like, I'm going to do a double. When I go on the other side, I'll put on those figure skates and you just create it with your mind. And so, yes, you can do that. That's part of being on the other side, right? Is that we create things with our mind. So being able to create things with your mind, that makes you extremely powerful as an individual. And to come here where you have no power. And in fact, you have to eat, worry about shelter, go to the bathroom. There's so many things that are just at the very basic level that, you're not creating anything with your mind. You have to create it physically. And you have to make good decisions, and you have to educate yourself, and you have to remain calm. You have to treat yourself properly. You have to treat other people properly. There's so many things about being human here. And, therefore you could really learn some great lessons while you're here and make yourself a better light being. So when you pass over on the other side, you can, teach others and continue to expand on source to, become an even higher level individual.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Franken Crypto says, Count Saint Germain, Comte de Saint Germain, had many woo qualities about him, and want to ask if you believe in his abilities to materialize the diamonds and silver coins from his talent on demand. And do you sense anyone alive today can also do that?
I feel that Count Saint Germain was a fraud.
Okay. Yeah,
He learned that he was a trickster. I don't think we have. I was.
he's come up like in questions once in a while. Count Saint Germain is like one of these people that supposedly has lived forever, or not forever, but a very long time. He's been around.
Okay.
There's all these different stories about him, but yeah, I think that's generally your consensus is he was a fraud. But interesting.
Well, I'm good. I'm being consistent then.
Yeah.
It's important.
Chris writes, "Hi, Rudy and Sam. Where is the most magical, sacred location in Ireland? Thank you." And it's not Disney Ireland, right?
Oh, I don't think that there's a magical or sacred location in Ireland as much as they would like to play it that way.
Okay, no sacred spots.
No,
Not even the
no,
Blarney Stone, unless you want to go
no,
swap some COVID germs,
no, not even the Blarney Stone.
right? All right. I think we'll skip Julie's question. That's person. I think that's a little more personal. So let's go on to Matt Zelenko's. Dear daring duo, gematria or geometry within language, how do you view it in relation to the wording of important news headlines, predictive programming, and the role it plays in decoding of the Truman Show we are all in? Thank you.
I think that there's something to it. It's like astrology to me.
Okay.
It's like I know there's something to it, but I don't really know the details on it. So
Okay.
sorry, I couldn't be more detailed. That's like
Yeah. All right. Tiki writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. Wondering if peeps on the other side can give some advice on the Gabby Petito case. She was killed, and then they can't find her fiance, who she last saw. Thank you."
well, that's pretty cut and dried. I mean, he murdered her, and now he's run off. So it's like I said, it's pretty cut and dried what's happened. And I'm sad that an entire nation is, you know, uh, fascinated with this murder when it's, it's as old school as it comes, angry man with poor upbringing, you know,
Yeah.
gets girlfriend who's young and she's going to leave him and he has a fit and bad temper and he strikes her, she gets killed, and it's not the first time that he was aggressive with her.
Mhm.
So I mean, her parents need to understand that, Gabby knew what she was doing. She was with a dangerous guy. She knew he was a dangerous guy, and I'm not saying that it's her fault. It's certainly not her fault, but I think that there's way too much. People just spend way too much on this stuff. I mean, I know people who get involved with people they shouldn't be getting involved in, and I just walk away from them. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's too bad, that you want to screw up your life like that. That's too bad. But I certainly wouldn't be spending all my time and energy and focusing on get her fiance. Oh, just, listen, I'm more upset about these. There was a young lady here a long time ago who finished work and she ended up being kidnapped by this man who murdered her. It was a very random thing. She didn't even get into, anyways. Um, I'm not saying there's deserving or not deserving. It's just that this kind of stuff, it's going to continue to happen because there's always people who are going to, get together with people they shouldn't be with. And instead of just walking away from them, they're all like, oh, I could save them. And it's not just women, it's men that are like that too. It's a personality type. It's just
Yeah.
that it's more likely if a man is trying to save a woman that he's going to end up in jail because she's going to beat on him and then call the police on him.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas in the case of Gabby, her boyfriend ended up killing her in a fit of rage because she probably talked about leaving him and he didn't mean to kill her. But then he's all like, oh, I got to, get rid of her body. And, he got rid of her body and they've since found it happened. They say I haven't been following the case at all because I don't follow it, but I have heard about it because
Yeah.
it's hard to avoid it. You just see the headlines.
Yeah, and it becomes this reality TV that people
Yes.
that they just spend too much time on it.
And put
But
their energy into it. It's just a statement of our society and where it's headed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hillbilly Bear writes, "Hey Sam and Rudy, do you believe science will work in tandem with the spiritual? I know you've touched on this topic before, but true collaboration at a mainstream level. I've always felt this could be possible, but will it take a momentous shift in the conscious of the many to see an outcome like this? Thank you as always. Love the show."
Yeah, I mean, that's actually what I'm working on, and which is part of the Great Awakening, is all of the proof that we have just in the couple of years that I've been doing the grand experiment. I mean,
Yeah.
it's in writing, it's on videos, it's the craziest stuff too. Like we've got a subscription to Searchy. I
Mhm.
mean, just if you're wondering where your money goes to, I'm not laying back sucking on bonbons. Buying expensive cars for myself everywhere. I got my Volvo XC90 last year and I'm holding on to it for as long as I need to. But, the Searchy, I was looking at the subscription to Searchy and it's like $200 US a month. I'm like, but what it does is we can search words on the
Okay.
videos. And that's why we do. And I'm just you should see the catalog that we have. Like the La Palma volcano, the
Yeah.
Las Palmas volcano, and me mentioning that like a couple of years ago and being very specific about the place, but it's not enough to do like a whole flashback Friday or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're just collecting all of the sort of blabs. And I
Yeah.
believe that these being put together, it's time stamped. You guys attended live, half of you did anyways.
Yeah.
So you'd be able to say, yeah, I was there. We even have the list of all the emails of people because Crowdcast has that if you want to see, if you're a
Mhm.
member and you want to see who attended live. And that's again, great backup. That's all you need is you need backup because there's so many frauds out there and people who
Yeah.
just create this stuff or they just, they just sort of say generalized things
Mhm.
and then they get a hit and then they just beat it to death, right?
Yeah.
Me, I've already moved on to like 5 new things that have come true since, the last thing we talked about. And that's, I think, the way that it's going to be going in this new age that we're entering into,
Okay.
that people are going to be increasing their abilities. And I feel like the information that I've been learning and sharing with people, as soon as I learn it, I think that's going to help a lot of other people, level up and
Yeah.
really, truly start to master their abilities.
Yeah, and I think we've always had like shaman people with gifts that kind of, and if that can come together in modern day society where help with medical advances or technology where people will actually consider it if it's coming from somebody with gifts, that would be huge. So
Well, even the grand experiment that I'm going to do with the healing, and I decided to do it with the silver coins.
yeah.
I was like, okay, since I can't go on tour, and I've ordered these silver coins, and I was like, okay, I have 250, but that's too many to do that with. I can probably do it with 100, and
Uh-huh.
that would be the one where we would actually document, and I would pray in tongues,
Oh, good.
and then the person would specifically say, and it has to be like a malady that you could say this cured me,
Okay.
right? So not just something like, oh, I want to manifest riches or anything like that. I'm not going to do that. That's just silly. We can manifest riches with cryptos. Just buying and holding the right ones. Yeah, you're going to be good, right? And stop hunting after these flyers. I mean, the whole market is going up. Everybody's all
Yeah.
upset and everything that, oh, I'm not going to own the next one that goes 20,000. Listen, you just need 3 coins. It happens sometime over the next 12 months to 2 years and you've hit pay dirt. I mean, I don't know what people are all stressing about. Like, look at where it's going. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And people are dropping the US like yesterday's news when it comes to making offerings for cryptos. And believe me, the American government, they are hearing that loud and clear.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. I may even send a letter too and be like, yep, I'm just pulling up stakes from the US. I was going to move there, but I guess my NFTs are going to be issued out of Malta. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
You guys are sucking pretty bad. You better get your what together because we don't need you. We're just going to go somewhere else. So I see it coming true. I see that it's going to go in our favor.
Okay.
And I always felt that way, that things were going to turn around and the Americans were going to wake up. The American government was going to wake up and make sure that they got in front of this, even though they're a little bit behind in it. I think that the next like 6 months is going to be pretty tremendous in turning people's heads around on this whole issue.
I'm hoping that XRP case really kind of sets the new foundation because I mean it's just so ridiculous. It's comical to watch.
Yeah, well, that along with people choosing not to like what is it? I was listening to Bankless and that DYXD
Oh,
is it called? Yeah, that's like it has a higher volume of trading going on than like Coinbase now.
okay. Okay.
And that was all American engineers, developers. It's an American company. But you know what? They're not offering their token to Americans.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder why. Oh, too bad. American misses out. Oh, what a shame for you. Oh, well, I guess other people are going to get it, just like no exchange traded funds in the US.
Hmm.
And you're here, they're watching like all this money go to Canada
Yeah.
for their ETF. So how much more are they going to stand? Well, I think you guys are going to get a new leader in soon who's going to see the value of a really good business person.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Delbara writes, "Hi, Sam. Elon Musk says he has artificial intelligence computer software that has a 91% winning trade ratio. Is that true? I have seen other ads on YouTube promising the same thing with their software. Are they telling the truth or are they scams?"
It's a scam.
Uh, Sean says, "Hi, Rudy and Sam. You've covered this before, but any thoughts about things from the other realms coming through portals? Not so much the dark things, but more cryptozoology beings, alien beings, etc. Is this why people see these entities even when they might not have abilities? Thanks for all you do. Love and light, Sean."
Yeah, that's absolutely why. They just
Yeah.
come through the portals. And I mean, I have friends who have no abilities, and I have two portals in my house.
Oh, we've talked about that with the Bigfoot, the Dog Man, and like
Yeah.
pterodactyls. There's places in Texas where people, report seeing these cryptid creatures, and but yeah, we've talked about that before. So interesting. VM writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. I apologize if this question has already been asked before, but as I'm new to your psychic meetup, I would love to hear your insights on what happened at the Dyatlov Pass incident in 1959. There were 9 Russian hikers who mysteriously died, many of whom were found with traumatic injuries. The body of one hiker was found outside the tent without his eyes and tongue, and the body of another hiker was found without her eyes and mouth." So, Sam, do you remember we talked about this? I think it was about a year ago. I'm trying to remember what we said. If it was like the oxygen, they ran out of oxygen, or hypoxia, or if it was the ultra or infrasound that kind of made them go wacky.
I think it was the infrasound, and that there was a an anomaly in the wind.
Yeah, there was like a hill that where they camped out, and the way that the
Yeah,
wind swept over kind of created this infrasound that has this weird
yeah,
effect on people. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was something like that. That's what I felt like that it was. And
Okay. Yeah, November 25th show is we did that, so you can search the archives. Pete writes, let's see. "Dear both, I do not know if this is okay to ask, but if you can, maybe tell us something about this. Who was responsible for what happened to JFK? Thank you."
oh, it was the CIA. That
Okay.
was a conspiracy thing. It is true, and I do predict that the CIA will be just amalgamated into other.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of cuts in American departments
Okay.
because it is too heavy in those areas, and it just ends up becoming bloated and corrupt, and they just don't have the money for that kind of stuff anymore. And so I felt like the CIA was not going to be in existence down the road. And one of the big precursors to that would be the admission that they did actually murder JFK, because once they get powerful enough to like murder a sitting president
Yeah.
because of his policies and where he's going to be sending things, that changes things significantly, and people will be brought out of the shadows and prosecuted.
All right. Fireplow writes, "Remember a new moon tonight. Speak anything you want to manifest. Light a candle and speak your desires. What are your desires, Sam, under this new moon tonight?"
Oh man, I just want some peace. I just need a break, man. It's just been, I swear, it's just one thing after the other after the other. I need a break. That's what I'm gonna, not
My
not from
family.
you guys or anything. You guys are my light and what I look forward to. I'm just talking about it, all the other crap. Rudy, go ahead. You were talking
Yeah,
about your family.
my family's going out of town this weekend, so I'm excited. I get like 3 or 4 days to myself, just quiet time. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait for us to all finally be able, not all of us, but some of us will be able to get together again. And it's going to be under fantastic circumstances,
All
but
right.
hey, if you're watching, which you're probably not, because you have thousands of videos every night being taped, if you are go woke, you get broke. Because that's what'll happen. okay, I guess I'm starting my new website in 2 weeks then.
That's right. That's right. All right, Sam, rest up. Hopefully the shingles vaccine doesn't kick in for tomorrow with the crypto review with Moo Ant. So looking forward to that.
All right. Bye for now.
See you, everyone. Bye.